Hello, I'm Cathy.
And I'm Vllo, and welcome to Learn About Book Club.
Hello, this is my February reading journal. Today is Sunday the 8th of February and Orla is being the camera woman today. I have already finished 3 books this month, so
Hey.
I am on target for my reading 50 books this year. The books I have finished are number 1, Watership Down, the graphic novel. I thoroughly enjoyed this. It only took me 2 days to read and it was a lot of fun. The problem is that I adore this story so much that the moment I finished it, I now want to go read the full version of the book and watch the animated film of it. Because I just don't want to leave Watership Down. It's too beautiful a place to be, but this was an excellent read and I really enjoyed it. The second book I have finished is A Cottage by the Sea by Carol Matthews.
The birds are really going for it, aren't they?
Birds are really noisy today. Spring is definitely starting. So yes, I read A Cottage by the Sea, which is set in summer. I couldn't put this one down. I wanted to read it all the time. I stayed up late into the night reading it, and all day yesterday we had a lot of jobs to do and I just kept wanting to get back to the book and finish it. In this book we've got 3 friends and they're having a week's holiday in a little cottage by the sea on the Welsh coast. You've got Grace, who is stuck in a rut with her husband Harry. You've got Ella, who you kind of realise in the first couple of pages is clearly pregnant, but her partner is like a rocker and she's not sure how he's going to react to the news. And the third friend is Felicity, called Flick, who has always been the wild child, but for the first time she's feeling like she wants to settle down. And they all bring their partners, and then a lot of romance, chaos, secrets, drama happens, and it was just really gripping. And I think, the thing about romance stories like this is that it can't just be about falling in love. There has to be something deeper going on to make it compelling, and this really had that, because your main girl Grace was kind of realizing that part of the reason why her marriage is kind of stuck in a rut is that she's always changed herself to be whatever people around her needed her to be. She was always very accommodating, always very thoughtful, always very considerate, but it meant that she didn't really know what she wanted in life and what she wanted to do and who she wanted to be. So she kind of realizes over this week of being in this beautiful location and exploring Wales that there's more to her that she had realized. And I think that's what made this book so interesting to me. And I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and also reading this has made me want to book a holiday in Wales. So maybe we'll do that this year.
Yay!
Do you like the idea of that, Orla?
Yes.
And then the third book I've finished has been an audio book called Till We Have Faces by C.S. Lewis. It is a retelling of the Psyche and Cupid myth, and that was really interesting. I knew nothing about it going in. I can see why people believe this is C.S. Lewis's best work of fiction. I'm not sure if it's my favourite work of his fiction.
Doesn't he have Narnia?
Yeah, he wrote the Narnia books, and the Narnia books are hard to beat even though they're written for children. I also really enjoy his sci-fi trilogy. But I did enjoy this. It was a very deep character study. And it was very interesting being in this, in the sister of Psyche's head and seeing the myth unfold from her perspective. And yeah, it was good and compelling, and yeah, I'm happy to have ticked off another work of C.S. Lewis's that I hadn't read before. Then moving on to the books that I'm currently reading. I have read the first 20 or so pages of The Little White Horse by Elizabeth Gouge. I don't know how to say her surname.
Gouda.
But this is a children's book written in the 1940s about a young girl who is orphaned as a teenager. She's like 13, and she has to go live with like her second cousin in his house far away in the countryside. But it turns out his house is actually a castle.
There's a Luna.
Oh, there's a Luna.
Luna.
Back to me. The house she's going to is actually like a magical castle in some beautiful magical grounds. It's beautiful, enchanting and charming so far, and I can't wait to see what happens next. The other book that I am currently listening to is The Pilgrim's Progress. And I'm listening to this because a lady in my Bible study was talking about reading a children's version of it the other week and just said she found it absolutely wonderful, even though it was written for children. And that reminded me that The Pilgrim's Progress is mentioned so much throughout Little Women, and I've never read it. So I've started listening to the full version of it on audiobook, but my friend from Bible study has also lent me the children's version of it. So I'm going to read that maybe today and tomorrow, because I think reading the children's version of it will help me navigate the adults version of it, because it was written a long time ago and in quite old-fashioned language, and it's an allegorical tale. So I think reading the children's version will help me navigate my way through the adult book. Hello, it is Wednesday the 18th of November. It is half-term week. Rob and I both have this day off work and Ola is off school. So this morning we went to Lytham Hall to go and see the snowdrops. Lytham Hall is just on the Lancashire coast. It has a gorgeous display of snowdrops at this time of the year, and we have never been, and I've always wanted to go, so we just grabbed the moment, set off this morning and went to go see them. And it was really, really beautiful, but it was also really, really cold. It is absolutely perishing out there. And I don't know why, because like it's not frosty, it's not snowing, it's not raining. And yet it was just bitterly, bitterly cold. So we lasted about an hour walking around the grounds and taking photos and enjoying the scenery and enjoying the beautiful snowdrops. And then we tried to go to the cafe there, but everybody else had the same idea, so the cafe was absolutely full. So we then drove into Lytham town and we ended up having lunch at actually a really nice Italian quite close to the seafront, and had a delicious meal there. So all's well that ends in Italian food. So yeah, we've had a really nice day out, and now we're back home in the afternoon, and I'm actually really glad that we've just got the rest of this afternoon and evening to chill out in the house together, get cozy. Rob and Ola both wandered off to do some gaming together, and I'm planning on doing some reading and just chilling out, and I feel that's exactly what is called for on a very cold Wednesday afternoon in February. So that's what we've been doing so far today, and I just thought I'd come on and give you a little update with my reading. Since we last spoke, I finished the child's version of Pilgrim's Progress and have returned that book back to my friend. I really enjoyed that. I'm so glad I read it, because it's made listening to the adult version a lot easier. And it's really quite a beautiful story of the Christian journey, and I feel like there's probably a lot of meaning that I'm missing in the story, both the children's one and the audio one. And maybe when I've finished, I might want to read some commentaries and stuff around it to understand it deeper. But yeah, I'm really impressed. And you know, I never knew that the author of Pilgrim's Progress was arrested and spent like 12 years in jail just for preaching as a layman. Like, he was arrested for preaching when he wasn't a priest. At that time, only priests could officially preach, and he was preaching just as a regular person and got arrested for it. And that is quite astounding, because, you know, that's what I do. I often preach at my church, and I visit some churches, and I preach as a lay person, as a person who hasn't been necessarily trained formally in ministry, but, you know, has that passion and calling to talk about God's word and share it with others. And to imagine having to face being arrested for it in your own country is quite sobering. And yet out of that prison sentence, he wrote Pilgrim's Progress, which has now helped thousands of Christians on their journey in faith and helped them understand trials and tribulations and temptations that Christians face. And yeah, just quite amazing, really. So I have about 3 hours left of the audiobook to finish, and then I'll have completed that. And yeah, like I said, that has been a worthwhile endeavour this month. I think some bits I've really grasped hold of and understood, and other bits have gone over my head a little bit, and it's sparking a lot of thought. And, you know, there are some people who really don't like allegory. I think that's how you say it. There are some people who really don't like that. But I don't mind it. Sometimes it's just a really helpful thing to talk in parables and pictures, and it can speak to the heart of a truth in a really direct way, even though it's using picture language. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. So, finished the children's version, currently still listening to the proper unabridged version. Then the other thing I have finished is The Little White Horse, another children's book. So I've read 2 children's books this month, which isn't like me, but we'll go with it. I think this was interesting. I feel like this is a children's book that definitely feels very much of its time in the 1940s. It's very romantic, and by romantic I don't necessarily mean it's about love and a romance happening, but romantic in that it uses a lot of nature imagery. It's very sensory. Almost every chapter is like painting the picture of a beautiful scene that our characters walk through. To me, reading this, it also comes across as like the ideal England, where the countryside is absolutely perfect. The village is quaint and homely, and everybody knows their place in it. And the higher ups, the aristocracy, they've got the bluest blood ever, and they prove it by their fine way of dealing with the world. And the preacher is a man of integrity, and you know, the crown wins through, and it's just a very idealized version of English thinking. Which, if you wanted to dig into it and critically analyse it, you'd have a lot of material here. If you just wanted to enjoy the pretty scenery and the story and feel comforted by it, you could do that too. But the imagery in this is quite fantastic. Even the central thing of like the little white horse, the unicorn that features in this, it's used quite sparingly. And when the unicorn does appear, even as somebody who is no longer a 10-year-old girl, there is something quite thrilling about the unicorn's appearance. It does seem to touch upon another realm of existence, somewhere between myth and religion, and nature. So yeah, there is something beautiful and powerful in this. There's also something that is a little bit pompous in this story. Like I say, there's lots to digest and think of and critique, and I enjoy the experience of reading it. And I can see how this book has perhaps influenced others in the world of children's literature. Like there's a quote on the front saying that J.K. Rowling really loved this book herself as a child, and that idea of a child leaving the normal world and entering into a magical one. You know, it's done a lot, and it's done very well here. So yeah, I'm glad to have added this to my experience of reading English literature. Speaking of English literature, the other book that I have finished so far this month has been the Country Commonplace book, compiled by Miranda Mills. This was a book that Rob got me for Christmas, and it is a collection of writings about the countryside, poems, extracts from essays or literature, and it's organised in chronological order through the seasons. So we kind of start at spring and we end in February. We end in this month, really, the end of winter. And do you know what? When I started it at first, not many of the readings leapt out to me. But the more I read, the more I just seemed to sink into the rhythm of this kind of nature writing, which again is very beautiful, very poetical. How do I describe the experience of reading this book? It's like being wrapped in a blanket, offered your favourite drink and snack, and just being told to rest by the fire for a few minutes. It's like an invitation to just stop and pause and enjoy the world around you. And I have really enjoyed the experience of reading this book. I have spent a couple of evenings in the last week just tucked up in bed reading it before I go to sleep, and it has just completely lulled me into a peaceful frame of mind to settle down for the night. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I think partly because I've been reading this book, it just got me wanting to write myself. So I've been journaling more this week, and I've been writing a bit more of my fiction works because the words in this are really, really beautiful and inspiring and kind of made me want to get creative myself. So I've really enjoyed this, and I can see myself returning to this book from time to time. And also a handy thing about this kind of book is you'll come across authors or works of literature that you haven't read yet, and you'll be like, oh, now I've read an extract of this person's work, I'd quite like to read more. So there's probably a few authors in here who I'd like to look up and read more of their works. So now I'm currently reading War and Pieces, Fables Volume 11. It's hard to know what to say about Fables because I don't really want to give away spoilers for people who haven't read it yet at all. And this is like halfway through the series now. There's some exciting stuff going on. Our characters are being very proactive. I'll say Cinderella has just been absolutely awesome in this. She is like so cool in this. She's kind of got like a 60s spy badass vibe about her, and it's so entertaining to read. So yeah, I'm enjoying Fables. Rachel read this ages ago, so I need to catch up. So I'm going to hopefully finish this today or tomorrow. And then when I finish this, that is the end of my TBR pile. My TBR shelf is currently empty because this was the last book on it, which means when I finish this, I'm going to reward myself by rereading a book that's on my shelves. I don't know which book that will be. I'm kind of leaning towards Jane Eyre because I haven't read Jane Eyre in a long time, and I bought myself a new edition of it, and I haven't yet read that particular edition. So yeah, it's probably going to be Jane Eyre. But, you know, I'll see what I feel like once I've finished reading Fables. So, yeah, so far February is going really well, and it means that I have finished 11 books so far this year. So I feel like that is a good place to be at for my target for reading 50 books this year. I mean, it does help when you read a graphic novel and 2 children's books within a month, but I promise you, and you're just gonna have to take my word for it, that I am not deliberately choosing easy reads to meet my 50 book target, because in my mind that would be cheating. These are just the books that happened to be on my TBR anyway. Scout's honour. Although I'm not a scout. Just my honour. That's all you're getting. Hello, it is the 1st of March today, so this is my final update for February reading. Here's what happened since we last spoke. I finished the audiobook of Pilgrim's Progress, so I've now heard the whole thing, part 1 and part 2. All that is just picking up Luna, who is on the counter. Cats should not be on kitchen counters, but here we are. They know when I'm filming, I'm not going to get up and keep chasing them off. They are sneaky, sneaky creatures. So yes, I finished Pilgrim's Progress, and I am really glad to have read it. I don't think I ever realised how many references to Pilgrim's Progress are scattered throughout all of literature. I knew it featured a lot in Little Women, which is what sparked my curiosity in the first place. I'm now just seeing references to Pilgrim's Progress everywhere in all the books that I'm reading, and I just don't think I'd realised how influential this work was. So I'm really glad to have read it now for myself to know what this story is. And I found it really encouraging and really thought-provoking. So I am very glad to have read that. Another classics ticked off the list. I will say though, having heard the full adults version and read the abridged children's version, I may have preferred the children's version.
Well, you are a kid, Mummy.
I'm a kid?
Yeah, you're a kid.
Oh, all says I'm a kid, so maybe that's why. What do you mean I'm a kid? I'm your mum.
Because you're crazy.
Because I'm crazy. Okay. The kids' version was told particularly well in terms of like pacing and storytelling. So if you feel like the adults version is too intimidating, I'd say if you read the children's abridged version, you're still going to get like the main story and be encouraged by it. The next book I finished was Fables, War and Pieces, which we talked about in the last entry. I have now finished this, and I would say about this one, I had a really good time reading it. If you feel like 22 volumes of Fables is too much of a commitment, I now realise you could read up to volume 11 and feel like you've read a complete, satisfying story. And if you wanted to stop reading here, you would have experienced Fable's world and the storyline would have been nicely wrapped up, but there's room for further adventures to happen. So when I finished reading Fables, I had cleared my TBR, so I decided to reward myself with a reread. And I know that actually this is also technically a reread, but
You haven't read it in a long time.
I haven't read it in a long time, and I was reading it to buddy read it with Rachel. So my reward reread, and I've given myself, so I've said every time I clear my TBR, I get to reread a book from my shelves, is I read Jane Eyre. And I had forgotten how remarkable this book is. I couldn't put it down. The prose has lots of detailed imagery in it. It uses sophisticated language and ideas, but you can understand them. And I just find the whole story so enthralling. I look forward every day to picking it up and reading it. This is one of those books that just absolutely consumes me. And this time, when I've been reading through it, I've underlined so many passages of things that jumped out to me.
Yeah, you have. I saw you doing it. And that's like when the teacher says to underline any bits that might be helpful to you in the questions, and then there's just that one kid highlighting the whole page.
Yeah, well, it's just I don't know if you can even see, but there's just so much good stuff in here. And I love Jane as a protagonist. She is so brave and so principled, and her story is heart-wrenching. And I love how this is about an independent, brave and clever woman trying to make her way in the world. And
Just like the author.
Just like the author. And in the process, when she finds her family and finds her place and her home, it's just so beautiful. It's so moving. And I tell you what, this time I really, really appreciated the romance between Jane and Mr. Rochester. I know it's not everybody's taste. Mr. Rochester, in some ways, is undeserving. He has plenty of red flags, but man, these two have chemistry and they adore one another. And Mr. Rochester is very harshly punished for all of his many faults. But in the end, he comes to a place where, well, I don't know.
Even evil people have soulmates.
Even evil people have soulmates. Oh, that's a really good line. Yeah, and he turns away from his worst vices, and he is very brave and in his own way noble too. But yeah, I like it. Jane and Rochester, neither of them are perfect, but they have things that I admire in both of them.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the cover?
Yes.
How beautiful it is.
This is the first time I've read Jane Eyre in this edition, and I love it. I love how beautiful it is. I love that I can just lay it out on a table and the pages will lie flat.
Oh, and also the back page as well is quite nice with just the little flower bit.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel now that this is going to be my forever copy of Jane Eyre, and by reading it, I've baptized it for the first time, initiated it. Yeah, really, really enjoyed reading this.
The next one is the one I recommended.
Yeah, and then the last book that I've completed this month, Ola recommended me to read it. She's been asking me to read it for a little while. By the way, I don't know if you can tell, Ola and I, we've both had coughs and sore throats this last week, so...
I had a cough, and then you got a snotty nose, and then you gave me the snotty nose, and just when I was getting a better cough, then I gave you the cough.
Yeah, so we're a bit ropey voiced this morning. Anyhow, Ola has been reading a series of books called Wildsmith, and she's loved them so much that she's wanted me to read them too. So the last book I finished this month was Wildsmith, Into the Dark Forest. I love this, and I can see why you love this so much.
And the cover's actually pretty on this one as well.
Yeah, the cover is absolutely gorgeous on this. And this was published by UConn Publishing, which is where I got my master's in publishing. But I didn't work on this book. This book had come out a few years before. It's an absolutely brilliant story about a young girl who has to go live in the dark forest with her grandpa, who turns out to be a wildsmith, which is somebody who has magical abilities to heal, particularly magical animals. And she ends up adopting an abandoned baby dragon, and she has to save magical creatures from poachers in the forest. So a really good children's adventure book. And I can see why you enjoyed it, and I will be reading the rest of the Wildsmith books throughout this year. I've also started a different audiobook, but I'm going to save telling you about that until next month. So to round up, in February, I have finished 9 books. That is a lot more than what I would normally read in a month, even on a month where I'm trying to read a lot. The reason why it's so high is because 3 of those were children's books.
And one of those was a graphic novel.
Yeah, in fact, there was 2 comics and graphic novels in there. So that's why that number is so high. It's not going to be like that every month. My most frequently read mood books were adventurous, reflective, and emotional. I only read 1 non-fiction book this month, which means I'm behind on my target to make every 3rd book a non-fiction. And my most common read genres were classics and fantasy. And then my top book of this month was Jane Eyre. I mean, it's not fair to compare any other book to Jane Eyre anyway, but I had such a good time reading this, so that was my top book of February. So yeah, I'm going to wrap up there because my voice is now nearly completely gone. Thank you so much for reading. You
say that every time.
Thank you so much for watching this vlog. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've had a good reading month. In March, I can tell you that we're going to start with a library haul because I went yesterday and I have a whole selection of new books to read that I'm very excited about.
You brought like 6.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!
Luna is now coming to you.
And there's always a cat in the mix.
Sniffing it.
Okay, stop sniffing the camera.
Yeah. Make sure I look pretty. Do I look pretty? Yes.
Okay.